Yep. Good evening, everyone. So, yesterday we learned some joins and how to work with them, views, joins, and all. Now, one more concept. So, we need to know about MySQL triggers, how to use triggers actually. So, when you are working with a full stack application, you don't need all of these every time, but triggers are used for automation of certain tasks. We use triggers for keep tracking the actions performed on our database tables. Suppose after creating the table, some just example like we created some users table and some users will be registering. When users are registering, so we store the users data in users table. Now at one point I want to know on which day, at what time, who registered. All that information I don't want in table. Table contains only users information. But whenever user added, whenever user modified his details, or whenever user deleted, what I want is I will need to track. I need to keep that information like when user added, when user updated, when user deleted. That need not to be in user table. All the tracking information I want in one place. Just you see, you are doing some transactions in Swiggy, Zomato, or any apps. Now, due to some technical reason, you are unable to do the functionality. You are unable to complete the transaction. Then automatically their uh, help desk will come to picture. They will send you a message saying that can I help you in this? From this time you are trying to perform this. Are you still continuing? Do you want me to help? You are unable to place the order. That means at what time, what transaction you are doing, they were tracking it. That means all the information they are tracking and keeping that information. That can be done through triggers. So what trigger can do? Trigger is again just like a uh, virtual table only, just like a view. But what is the specialty here is this trigger gets executed automatically every time when any action is performed in the table. And it keeps tracking all the information. So later, whenever we need, we can identify what changes happened, at what time the changes happened, everything we can track. So that is the purpose of actually triggers. So for example, suppose you have a means in a later application we will design that. So we will create one application in the front end. This is the application user interface UI. In the application user interface, we will create one form. That means we provide a form. Through that form, user can insert, user can update, user can delete, like actions they can perform. Now, actually, this we manage through a business layer. Later, I will explain the full stack application when we design a project. So here we have this is a application business layer. This is business layer. In the business layer, usually we design all the business logic. We create all the business logic for handling those interactions. And finally, those interactions are updated into the database. That means we usually have a database layer. That means here we have the database layer. In the database layer, in database, all those interactions are managed, stored. That means usually here you have a data table. In the data table, all the data is stored, updated and all. Now, usually what happens in this data table, all the data is maintained. That means all data is kept inside this table, and the log we can maintain in a trigger. That means what we can do, we can create triggers. These triggers are connected with the table. These triggers are connected with the table for different operations, different triggers, and these are connected with the tables. These are connected with the tables. That means this trigger will track inserting, this trigger will track updating, this trigger will track deleting, like this. These kind of actions are performed by using the triggers. Trigger is responsible for doing that. That means what happens from the front end, we perform some action. That action is sent to business layer. From the business layer, that is done into the database table. We send to the database layer. And whatever action you are performing, its updated information will be inside the triggers. That means table contains data and triggers contains information about the changes in the table. You can simply say, like, you can keep some metadata of the table data. That means when they are updating, when they are inserting, when they are deleting, all this information we can track and we can keep in a trigger. Triggers we don't manually execute. Triggers automatically execute. They automatically execute when any action is performed, like insert or update or delete. So these triggers are like database tables only. They contain data. That means you can store data in a trigger. It is just like a table, but we don't directly insert data into it. Data is inserted, updated, deleted, depending on the actions that you perform on the table. So we can keep tracking of data changes. What is happening on the data? We can keep all the updated. When user inserted, when updated, when deleted, all such tracking we can manage using triggers. So we don't directly use the triggers, but triggers are required to keep all the log information about the tables. So how to create these triggers associated with the tables? To create a trigger, you need a table. So triggers are attached to the tables and they are related to various actions, right? Let's see how this works. So this part actually you will learn in creating an application. This part you will learn in creating application. So this part actually, this entire part up to here you will learn in front end and back end. That means in the front end, using your front end technologies, you will create the UI. Using Node, Express.js, you will create the business layer. So we can attach that to the database later. Initially in database, we will create these triggers, how to handle them. So actually, technically, so trigger is a stored program similar to a procedure. Is a stored program similar to a procedure. So it comprises of commands that execute automatically so when changes when table is updated you can create a log of actions performed on tables so that you can track the actions on data. You can track the actions on data. You can track the actions on data. Triggers are required to keep data integrity, and log. So syntactically, how you create a trigger is actually create trigger and the trigger name. And trigger requires when to execute this. That means we have to use before, after, and we need to define before, after which command we have to define. Commands are like what? Commands are like insert or update or delete, like commands. So trigger name and what actions when the trigger should execute before or after insert, and on table name, which table you have to mention the table name. And when these actions are performed on the table, what should happen? That means we need to configure actions like what for each row. For you can say each row, we can have a begin and here statements and end. We can keep the begin and end. That means in the database table, for each row, whenever insert happens, update happens, or delete happens, it will perform the functionality that you mentioned. So here, actually what is before? So before and after defines when trigger need to execute. Before and after defines when trigger need to execute. That means before the operation or after the operation. So insert, update, and delete are the actions that execute trigger. When to execute the trigger, that is mentioned by before and after. And on which action it should execute, we have to mention, is it insert or update? And for each row, specifies that trigger executes changes, a trigger executes and updates changes after each row. Each row. So begin and R is the scope that contains statements to execute. The statements to execute that is defined by using begin and end. So that is how we configure the trigger. So here, what are the options? How do we create these triggers? Let's see. That means we create triggers for any database table. A simple table we will take because already we have some tables with a lot of actions defined inside. So MySQL okay. So already we are having some tables. In these tables, suppose categories table is there and anything describe categories, TBL categories. What is the structure? Category ID is primary key, category name is different. Okay. Suppose we want products table is lengthy, na? Lot of contents are there. TBL products is having so many details are there. We will keep with this category is enough. Okay. Now I have a categories table. If any category is modified, then I need to track that when it is modified. So I need to get that information update. So what we can do, we will create a trigger for that. So what is our requirement is I need to keep tracking on one table. So that is categories table. Any updates happen in the table, I need to record it. When it is updated, I need to record that. We can add lot of functions also, like your aggregate functions, so date functions, whatever you learned, you can implement those, because just the query we need to define which one. So let's take here create trigger and the trigger name, track categories, that is the trigger name. Track categories is the trigger name we are defining. And what is the action we need when you want this trigger to execute? Before action or after action? So I will use after. After which action? After update. After update. So that means I want this trigger to execute after update. Okay, after update on which table? So on which table? After update on TBL what? Categories. After update on TBL categories. What update on TBL categories? So for each row. For each row. And here, what you want to update? So what you want to update and what you want to define. So that means on update, what you want to define. So here for each row, after update on this particular, for each row, we need to have a begin and we need to have an end. We need a begin and end. What action you have to mention? All this information we need to create a table. Remember, trigger is executed, so it is a stored program. But whatever result of this trigger must be stored in one table. So track categories is what? This is the trigger name. What trigger will do? It will collect information about changes happening in the table. Where to store that information? Trigger cannot store that information. You can store that information in another table. So trigger is a stored program. It contains only the statements, but not the data. We generally say that it's like a view, but it is not a view. Actually, it is just a program. It contains only commands. It doesn't contain the data. So for data, we need to maintain a table. We need to create one table. In that table, all this recording should be stored. What trigger is doing? Trigger is recording the activities. Whatever activities it is recording, it cannot store inside it. It needs a table to store all those recordings. That means we need one more table. So for that, in that table, we need to keep all that information. So what is that is, I will create a table now. So what is the table here is, let's keep a table name as simple create table. I'll create a table name as categories log. Categories log. Categories log is the table name. Okay. In this categories log table, what are the details you want? Suppose I will give an auto ID. So ID, log ID. Log ID is an integer primary key and auto increment. Log ID will be auto incremented here. Okay. Then next what? We need what action has been performed on the table. That means I will give action name. Action. Action is a varchar. So just 20, 30 is enough. Action means what happened, updated, deleted, inserted, such action name we want. And here log time. So log time I will create. This is we will keep as what? Timestamp. So I will create a timestamp. Where is it? Timestamp is there? Yeah. So we'll create a timestamp. That's timestamp is defined for that, and that's enough. What else? So timestamp of default current time is there. We'll first add this one. Log time is suppose date time I will keep. Okay, that is the command we are having. We will use timestamp and default. Default we will keep as current timestamp. Default current timestamp we will add that. That is fine. That means default is the current timestamp. Current timestamp means it will record the particular current time. At what time it is stored, it will get that, right? Okay. Now the table is created. So let's see. Yeah. What is the table name? Categories log. This table is actually empty. Nothing is there. The table is empty. So what should happen is whenever any row is updated, that information must be inserted into that log table. So that means which command we have to execute? We have to execute. Here you need to define the command. The command can be select command, insert command, update or delete command. So which command should be there? Insert. Insert. What? Insert what? Insert into tables. Table name. Table name is what? Categories underscore what? Log. Insert into categories log. What are the fields? We need to define the fields. We have fields. One is auto-generated field. And here, this auto-generated field is log ID. That must be automatically generated. A new ID must be generated. So in the trigger, we can use a new command, new dot ID. A new ID is created. It is going to generate a new number, 1, 2, 3. Okay. Actually, this is log ID. Log ID will be automatically added, and action name and log time. So we will give action name. Action name is what? Action name. Action name. Values. What are the values? Values should get, one is what? New dot ID. Another one is what? Action name is update. Update is to be added. And here we need two fields. One is what? Log ID and action name, and the values must be these. These are the values it needs to execute. These are the actions to perform. Is it okay? What is the problem? Default when values are inserted into this. First I will insert some values. Means roughly I am checking the values what are inserted. Values are insert and update. Time is recorded. Yeah, time is recorded. Action is also working fine. Okay. Means I've just checked whether it is recorded or not, and auto generated or not. Two fields are auto generated. So in our trigger, where uh, categories log is the table name. These are the fields, and is also fine. Here it is missing something. Statement is incomplete. Why? What is the problem? Huh? Action name. Column name, what we given? Only action, huh? That is action. So log ID, log ID, action, and log time. Only these two details are required. Any delimiter is expected. Sometimes this delimiter have issue. Delimiter. Delimiter dollar. Delimiter and delimiter problem is not there. Delimiters. Sometimes this delimiter issue may be there, but delimiter problem is not there. Uh, any issue in the trigger itself. Action name update. Acha, some problem is in the empty query. Auto increment not defined. Auto increment is not applied, I think. So let's describe what is it, categories log. Auto increment is there. Hmm? Default is null. Auto increment is there. Delimiter is problem. Huh? Okay, let's run this. Column ID is not there. New. Unknown column. Log ID. Log ID is not in column. In this already log ID is there. So one. In the table auto increment have some problem. I will create another auto increment and see that. Then this will add every time one only. Okay, we will keep one option and see that. Actually, what happened in the table, auto increment is not properly created. So that is the reason what I have to do. Just put some fixed number, then we will update that. And it needs a delimiter. Trigger is also using a delimiter, and we used the delimiter separated with what? Slash, or we can use delimiter as what? Dollar. We can use delimiter anything. I used the delimiter. Actually, inbuilt delimiter have to take. If it is not taking, then we have to manually add the delimiter. Delimiter start, delimiter end, create the trigger and define this. Now it is executed. That means we have trigger. Once trigger is created, let's update the table. Which table we need to update? This categories table, let's select star from which table? Categories underscore what? Log. And it is having some one data here. I will delete this. Okay, it is empty now. There is nothing inside. So what we will do now, when I run this, so one is automatically updated here. So I will delete this, keep the rows deleted. Now what we do, we will modify the table. Which table we have to modify? TBL categories. Select rows. In that we will change the category name. Suppose fashion, that category name I change it to kids fashion. Some modification happened. And after that modifying, apply. The changes are applied. Okay. So it is having some problem. Set category name where category 3. So what is problem in this? The categories table category ID value count at row 1. Is it linked with somebody else? I think it is linked with products table. Na? I think we created a foreign key relation also. So because these all relations are internally created, better we should have taken a new table because this is already having. That means why you cannot update, because already it is using that category inside what? Products. That's the problem. So we will do one thing. I will select the rows. Fashion related, I will delete here. Okay. Fashion related products are not there. Fashion related products are not there. Then we will update this now. Still have a problem. Hmm. Okay, better I will create another one. Because the categories table is linked with others, we will create a trigger called track some vendors, update after update on Hyderabad vendors. The table I am using for each row, insert into, actually we should have another table. Huh? Temporarily I will keep this categories log. Okay. And in Hyderabad vendors, I make some change. And I will change this as a Samsung and apply. There is some problem in the log table only. duplicate entry. So we'll keep here. Already categories log. It is having some data. Some table issues are there. Okay. I will do one thing. I will create a new table with without disturbing all this, because all these tables somewhere we are using relations with others. Some issues will be there. Okay, first the process we will create these Hyderabad vendors and all. A new table will create. Okay, so we will create a complete new table, and on that we will implement this. On that we will implement the trigger. So what we will do is we will create one complete new scenario. That means one new table I will design. In that we will insert, because all these tables are creating some issues. Okay, so first what we will do in this first point, create a new database table. So suppose we say database table by name, some students, TBL students. We will have a student ID fields. We will give student ID, and this is like primary key integer. So primary key integer, so not null. These all options we give, and we say some rank. We'll give some varchar. This is like some grade, grade, some varchar, some 2 or 3. Actually, it is char is enough to record one option. This is student ID and grade. Now what you need is create another database table to track the log, to track and log the data changes in students table. So we will create as students log, that is the table name. We'll use students log as table name. Now what this log should contain? In this log we need to keep some ID. We will put an ID for this. What is it? So this is some log ID. So this is like ID. Okay, ID is an auto generated ID. So this is also primary key, integer, so not null, and auto increment. We'll keep this ID auto incremented. What else we need? So we need a action to perform. Action is what type? Varchar type sum20 is the action we are defining. And what else we need is timestamp. Change time we will give. Change time is an timestamp. Timestamp. And what is the timestamp default? Default, it will use a current timestamp. Default, it will use current timestamp. If we want, we can create a foreign key also. Timestamp is there and we need a foreign key. Relation, we will create one relation. What is it? Here we need another one. Student ID I will create. Student ID is what type? Integer. Because we will create one relation with both of them, right? What is that relation? Foreign key. And the foreign key field is what? Student ID. References what? References from which table? Table name, TBL students. In that what? Student ID. Student underscore ID. Right. That is the reference we will create. Now, what else? Foreign key constraint name is required when you want to later manage the foreign key. If without that also we can directly create foreign key. That means foreign key constraint you can create as a constant. Actually, when you need that, when we want to later manage that foreign key. If you don't want to manage the foreign key, directly you can write the foreign keys. You can directly write the foreign key. Actually, you can create a constraint, foreign key, constraint name, everything. Otherwise, directly you can define the foreign key, right? So here, that's also simple note I will give you. Constraint name is required only when the changes expected in a constraint, in foreign key constraint. Expected in foreign key constraint. Right. Now what you can do is you can create a trigger to track the changes in students table. So what is the trigger we have to do? Create trigger and students log trigger. Track students is the trigger name. Actually, better I will give the complete syntax because it needs a delimiter. Huh? Delimiter is required. Okay. So what is it after update on? What is the table name? TBL what? Students. TBL students. So after update on TBL students, we have begin. What we need to do, insert. Sorry. For each row, each row, begin, insert into which table? Student log is the table. Students log is the table. What we have to do? Two details we need. What are the details? We have an ID. So that is student ID. And action name is, what is it? Updated. Sorry, student ID. These are field names. Huh? Student ID. Another one. What is the name we given? Action. Action. What are the values? Values you need to keep. What are the values? One is new. We can use new dot ID. It will generate an auto ID. Update. New ID is nothing but it is used to create a new field. Dynamically it will create a new field. Because auto generated you dynamically create. Otherwise you manually mention that. And we have end slash. And what? Delimiter. These are the actions we need to define. Values. Now it should work. So this is the complete scenario to implement that. We'll see. So now here we are having the student name, student ID, change time, and the grade. Okay. Now let's create a table. So let's keep the table as TBL students. And in this we need two fields. One is a student underscore ID. Auto increment. Okay. Another one is what? Grade. So varchar is some 10 like this. That's a simple table. So that is added. Fine. Next, we need another table also to create. In the students table, we will add some data also. So student ID grade is suppose A. That's added. This grade is C. Added. These are the IDs of students. Some B. That's added. Okay. Now we will create another table. What is another table to create? So just directly we'll create fast and we make the changes inside it. Create table. What is it? Students log. In this we need what is the field? So this is an log ID. Log ID that is integer primary key. And what else you need? In this we need what? Action. Action also varchar is short some 20. Okay, what else we will apply here? One more we need. What is the field? Field name. Change time. Change time. Okay. So this is change time. What is the data type? Timestamp, and default is equal to current time stamp. Okay. Next what? Another one. Another one is a student ID. Na? Student ID. What is it? Integer. Integer, huh? Right. Student ID is integer. Next what? So we need to add what? Foreign key. Huh? Foreign key. What is the foreign key? Foreign key field is what? Student ID. So student ID, student underscore ID. References. Huh? So references from where? TBL students. TBL students. What is it? Student ID. Student ID is the references. What else? Student ID. Foreign key is this one. Primary key is already, because we are designing in the design mode. Okay, student ID from the student table. Actually not required. Here in the command it is needed. Okay, foreign key is this and primary key is this. It is successfully created. We created one table. Now this table is having student log. So now TBL students and students log both are present. Now we will create a trigger. So how to create a trigger? Create trigger name. Trigger name is track students. Track students is the trigger name. Anything you can give. What else you need? After. After what? Update. After update on which table? TBL what? Students. TBL students. Okay. After update on TBL students, each row for each row, what should happen? So for each row, what should happen for each row? In the TBL students, after update command, on each row, on TBL students, on TBL students for each row, we have to use begin and end. Let's put delimiter also. Delimiter is / and the delimiter here. Okay. And delimiter end. Delimiter end is there. So we need one more command. What is this command? Command is what? Insert. Insert into what? Table name. Table name is what? Students log. Insert into students log. What are the fields we need to insert? Student ID is auto-generated na, so we have to use new dot what ID, and what else? Command action is what? This is sorry. This is ID. Student underscore ID. What else? Action. What are the values? Values are coming from new. New dot what ID, and what is the action name? Update. Update the action. Then that is fine. That is the trigger we created. Okay. Let's run this trigger. Have again problem with this ID. Why this ID is not creating? Okay. The key is created. Trigger is created. Let's insert some data. Where to insert the data? Into TBL students. In the TBL students, we will modify this. The grade is modified to what? B. Second student is modified to B. Then we will update that. Some issue is there. Default value is not there in log ID. Na? We added default ID. Huh? Huh? In students log. Primary key is not there. In student log. Change time, student ID. Log ID. Not increment. Auto increment not there. Not there. Describe students log. Auto increment is not there. Huh? Auto increment. Okay. In TBL students. Okay. Now it is fine. Huh? Now let's go to the students log. It will get that information. So now it is working. That means what it has done, log ID is what? 1. What action performed? Updated. At what time updated? This is the time updated. Whose details updated? Student ID. So we will go to the data now. Students, TBL students, we will change the grade of third person C, and we apply, that is changed, finish. We will go to the students log. Now third one is updated on this particular tab. That means it keeps tracking the action performed in the table. So our table need to be reasonable. Some relationship problems, issues are there, then these errors will come. So we created students table, and in this students table, auto increment here I given. So better this auto increment in log also should be defined. This is there all. What I have given in my data is ID. If it is ID while inserting, this is the same. So I will give the commands I created. What are those commands? So this is the trigger command we have. Okay, this is the trigger command we have created. So this is the trigger. Same first point is, this is the trigger. Delimiter, create trigger, track changes, on what, update. And here we can create the same thing so that you will not get the same errors. I will give the same commands what I have done. Okay. In the notes, I will give this example set by set here. What is it? TBL. TBL what? Students. In this, what you have, I will keep the TBL students log. Right. TBL students describe TBL students. Okay. In this is the details we are having. I given two details, student ID and what is the data type, integer, primary key. Okay na? Auto increment. This is the option. Another one is grade. Grade is some varchar some 10. This is TBL students. What is next? So another table we created. What is it? Students log. Students log. This is the students log. Students log. This is table. This is table 1. This is table 2. In the students log, what are the details? Log ID. Log ID data type is integer. Primary key. It is also auto increment. Auto increment. Next what? Action. Action is varchar. Just 10 or 20. Next what? Another field is what? Change time. Change time. In this change time, its data type is what? Time stamp. Timestamp default is nothing but current time. current time stamp. Okay. Next what? Student ID. This is a student ID. Student ID. And this is integer only. We have to add what? Foreign key na? Foreign key. Foreign key. Foreign key field is what? Student ID. References. TBL students. From there what? Student ID. That is the foreign key you need to add into table, right? And this is the trigger. This is the trigger. This is the trigger. The trigger for tracking the students, right? Now what we are doing, we are creating a trigger on update on students. It will execute every row. It will insert into student data. And you see what is this new is? It will generate a new ID for every student, auto incremented ID for that. And whenever update, it will set the new IDs. That means new ID is required to add one ID into this table. Which table? Students log. Into the students log, auto incremented ID must be generated. That is what we are creating here. Because it is already having a foreign key, which student, that student number will be automatically updated. That means whose details you updated, at what time updated, all that information. Now, if you want to track whether anything is deleted or not, you can create another trigger for delete. Only one change you have to do. What we have to do after what? Delete. After delete. And you know, so we have to just insert. Only here we need to change. What is this insert? It is not inserting data into the students table. It is inserting into the log. In that, this time the action name will be not update. Action name what? Delete. When any record is being deleted, when record being is inserted, updated, everything it will track. All that information we can keep in the trigger. So triggers are used for keep tracking the actions and automate the actions. These are important in real world. So because whenever data is changed, we need that changes related information. Right? So better you create new tables, because if I plan everything on existing tables, because we use it in different relationships and all, they will create issues. Huh? So you try creating a new tables with the same syntax what I given, that will be better. Okay, right. Next, once you know how to create triggers, now these are the basic things for database management in the backend applications. Database is having lot of more concepts. Database is having more concepts, but for our course, these are the topics we have designed. That means for full stack people, when we teach database, these are the topics. So that means a developer should know how to create database, tables, how to perform queries, all type of logical queries, how to insert, update, delete, CRUD operations, how to create procedures, manage the procedures. These are enough for handling the data. Now we can go into another database. What is that? So we can go into another database, that is MongoDB. MongoDB. So MongoDB database is different completely from MySQL. It is completely different. Your database's knowledge will help here. But to learn MongoDB, you don't need knowledge of MySQL. So to learn MongoDB and work with MongoDB, you don't need knowledge of MySQL. You just need knowledge of some JavaScript JSON. You know, in JavaScript, we have JSON. JSON JavaScript object notation. Data is maintained in a JSON format, we can try. Now, what is this MongoDB and how it is different, where it is used, what are the features, that we will see tomorrow. Right, tomorrow we will start learning with MongoDB. Right, MongoDB is a very simple one. We can easily manage in less time. It will not take much time for MongoDB as MySQL. Why? Because these MongoDB is a non-SQL. All commands happens through simple methods, insert, update, delete methods. Because already you have awareness on MySQL. Now you just need to understand how insert works, how delete works, how update works, changes. Rest of basics are same, right? Then if we can finish, we can start with Node. So backend server side Node and Express.js, right? This MongoDB will take 1 week to finish all the concept of MongoDB. So how to set up, install, working with and all. Then we can go into backend. This is also backend, but this is all database tier. Now we will go to business tier, Node and Express.js, right? Then tomorrow we'll continue with this. Okay, right.